What's shaking, cocktail fans? I'm Modern Bar Cart CEO Eric Kozlik. It's my job to hit the road and seek out the best and brightest minds in the spirits and cocktail world so that I can share their secrets with you. This time around, I sit down with Joey Fox of Old Westminster Winery in Westminster, Maryland. He's a certified sommelier and he's incredibly passionate about the world of natural wine. In this video series, we discuss what natural wine is, what makes it so special, and what terms you need to know to be fluent in the language of natural wine. And of course, we taste a few interesting expressions along the way. Enjoy. So how does your somm training kind of tie into the natural wine space? When you got your certification, was natural wine a big thing, or is that something that you've had to kind of do some extended kind of professional development on?
Yeah, very much the latter. I would say there is not really any mention of natural wine through. I went through the Court of Master Sommeliers, whereas you did WSET, the two big accrediting programs.
Right.
And like you mentioned, neither of them have any. There's no mention of natural wine in either of them, so it's very much been a self journey.
Yeah.
And working here, we are striving. We're on this natural wine movement. We're living it. We're doing it in the vineyards. We're doing it in the cellar. So this has really opened me up to a lot. And we're working a lot of natural wine events. We just did a couple events in New York where you get to meet fellow winemakers and kind of bounce ideas off each other, see what's working, what's not working.
Right, and that's important in your space too, because remember we were talking earlier about sulfites and how like the sulfites, the addition of those kind of widens, it opens up your options in a number of ways, right? So for a group of people who are saying no to the sulfites, it does definitely help to be able to gather some data points on there, because I imagine sometimes it can feel like you're in a vacuum.
Definitely.
Especially when you walk into like the Trader Joe's or whatever it is, and you see all these wines for like $4 a bottle.
Yeah.
$2 chuck or whatever.
Sure.
Now it's $3 chuck, I think. But it must sometimes feel like you're in a vacuum, right?
Yeah. And on the whole Trader Joe's thing, and the natural wine movement, I think this is something we'll see going forward, that it might be a bit exploitative, where Trader Joe's just launched their first natural wine, which was an orange skin contact wine with, other than the orange and skin contact part, there was nothing natural about it. You try to get any info from them and it's very heavily manipulated. It's just kind of a marketing term. So I think
right, like craft, right? Isn't that like in the same conversation as like craft or small batch in the spirits world, right? Because small
it's
batch,
ambiguous.
Yeah, small batch can be relative, and craft can be relative as well.
Yeah, it's really, there's no, like the AOC, AOP, all that stuff. There's no regulation for natural. I think it's really important, if you're interested in this sort of thing, to meet your growers, talk to your winemakers, and find out about the products that you're drinking. That's the only way. Websites are all very vague and ambiguous, unless you're incredibly intentional.
Yeah.
But even something that not a lot of people know. Are you familiar with Domaine de Romanée-Conti?
Yes. It's basically the big daddy of Burgundy.
Yep. This is the most expensive wine in the world. Not a lot of people know that they use no sulfur in their wines. It's not something they advertise. It is the most expensive bottle of wine in the world, and it is a natural wine. They farm organically, but no one knows that. They don't advertise it.
I was able to go to Burgundy in 2015, and it was probably one of the coolest trips I've ever been on. We've kind of been shitting on old world practices during this conversation, and I don't think that they're always good, but it's just two different sides of a spectrum. I think in order to appreciate natural wine, it helps to see these really established regions. It helps to like when I was in Burgundy, we were driving through Volnay and the driver pointed over at Pommard and said, yeah, there was this huge microburst and Pommard across the street lost half their grapes and Volnay was fine. And to understand like what kind of influences that has, and talking about like how the vineyards were completely redistributed following the French Revolution so that it looks nothing like Bordeaux.
Yeah.
Like these are really interesting things to learn. So I don't want it to sound like we're shitting on like old world, like established wine practices, but I think what you're saying is a perfect example of like everything that we're trying to emphasize in this podcast is like, yeah, the most expensive, probably one of the most revered wines in history, natural.
Yep.
And we didn't even know.
Nope. Just like on the other end of things in California, there's a winemaker named Pax. And he was just awarded 100 points, which points are meh. But he was given 100 points from Galoni on a Syrah that was absolutely zero sulfur. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not a thing he floats into the mainstream. He's not interested in flouting that he's natural. This is just what's accepted as we think this is the best practice.
Right. Yeah. So, man, I am completely like all jazzed up for natural wine. Obviously the two glasses in front of me have helped. But we're going to be right back to talk about a couple more things. We're going to talk about biodynamic practices and we're going to talk about hybrid grapes. Stay tuned.